you should check out some of my other channels. Have a great day.
We would be honored if you would join us.
We're all super excited for episode 9, but I know many can be skeptical as well. The issue with it is, as JJ has said, is that it's not just one movie. It's taking 8 movies or sectional stories and putting them into one while making something new. There's only one in mind who can untangle this web so that everything makes sense at the end of the day. George Lucas has actually been summoned for episode 9 before they even began writing. Here's what JJ had to say about it. This movie had a very, very specific challenge, which was to make 8 films and give an ending to 3 trilogies. And so we had to look at it. What is the bigger story? We had conversations amongst ourselves. We met with George Lucas before writing the script. These were things that were in real, not debate, but looking at the vastness of the story and trying to figure out what is the way to conclude this. But it has to work on its own as a movie as well. It has to be its own thing. It has to be surprising and funny, and you have to understand it. Now, while working on the original trilogy in the 70s and 80s, George had, and I quote, enough material for 3 earlier films and 3 later films to make a total of 9. And there were outline materials, certainly, for a later 3 that culminated with this big clash with the Emperor in episode 9. So George seemingly had a plan all along to lead up to the 9th film for a big fight with the Emperor. His ideas were to have a character named Kira, who would have been related to Skywalker and Ben Solo. These were all in early drafts that he had made and then revealed later on. So in a way, it seems things are going along the way that he wanted. However, many have stated from knowing George that apparently he wouldn't have killed Luke until later in the 9th film. I mean, even Mark Hamill said that that's not how he believes Luke would act, to turn away from his friends and hide in fear. He said maybe Luke would retreat for 6 months to think, then come back stronger than ever and in the right mind frame. Now, one of the ideas that George had for episode 7, 8, 9 was to basically talk about the Force and to talk about the wills themselves. Now, before he wrote episode 4, he had this Journal of the Wills, and the Journal of the Wills was basically a journal that outlined Star Wars and talked about Star Wars and the events of the galaxy, but from these massive sentient beings. Now, I don't mean massive as in, physically, but massive as in the grand scale of the universe. They pretty much were God, sort of. And the wills, later on, we find out, are the people that Qui-Gon spoke to in order to learn how to transcend his essence or his consciousness into the Force itself, who later then taught Yoda, and that's how we got Force Ghosts. So I'm thinking that if he wanted to go this route and basically make 7, 8, 9 about the Force, then hopefully, if they did meet up with George before writing episode 9, which they did, then maybe we'll learn a lot more about that, or have at least some snippets in there about the Force itself, and how it basically works. Now, as we know, the Force did create Anakin Skywalker. A lot of people believe that Plagueis created Anakin. However, he tried to create the perfect Force entity for the dark side using, his manipulation of the midichlorians. But in fact, it was the Force acting out and kind of responding to this creation, this dark movement by him, and created Anakin to create balance. So with George having been part of the creative process, outlining, hopefully, where the 9th film will go, means that he had to take into account that episode 8 caused a massive rift. Now, whether you loved it or hated episode 8, it doesn't matter here. It did cause a separation of emotions for his story. I remember in an interview after episode 7, he made a comment about what he thought of the film, and he said something like this: "It's like sitting at your ex's wedding and watching from the crowd. It's always just gonna feel weird." So with him being part of episode 9 now, in some way obviously, I can expect to see a lot of leniency with Star Wars, the prequels and the originals. I mean, bringing Palpatine back in the flesh is one thing, but bringing George Lucas on board of the creative team, outlining where the direction of all this should go, fixing plot holes along the way, is something that has any doubt in my mind to be put out immediately, instantly. And that's why I think that episode 9 will be an extremely good film. At least, hey, I'm very hopeful. Let me know what you think we'll see in the movie, how Palpatine will return, and how all of this will tie into the originals and the prequels, and if Anakin will make an appearance. Thanks for watching. Hit like if you enjoyed it, and have an awesome rest of your day. Until the next episode, remember, the Force will be with you always.
Now, fulfill your destiny.